Hello, the Math Dog here. In this video I do an introduction to combining like terms. So like terms are like x's, so I can add 2x and 3x, that makes 5x. But if I have like x plus y, I cannot say that does not equal xy. Those are different things. You cannot add one apple and one orange and get an orange apple. You cannot add 1 foot and 1 inch and say you get 2. You have to convert things in that case to the same units, like either inches or feet. Like a foot and an inch would actually, you could write as 13 inches. You could write as 1 foot 1 inch, but you can't say it's 2 because they're not like. So an x squared is an area, like an area. X times x is an area. You cannot add x squared and x, for example, together. They're different things until you know a particular value for x, and these are the types of things that I will be discussing in this video. So let's get started. So a couple things here. First, what's a coefficient? In this case we say 3x. Well, 3x means, one way of interpreting it means this is x added to itself 3 times, because after all, multiplication is repeated addition. So this really means 3 times x. And we usually do not show the multiplication sign, though you could put a little dot in there or you could put a parentheses. We rarely do that. Another way of interpreting this is a length of x, and we're stretching it 3 times. So 3x, or you're magnifying it 3 times. This is a stretch times 3. So this is x, this would be doubling it, so tripling it would be right here. So 3x is this length right here. It is 3 times longer than x. The negative 2x literally could be interpreted to mean negative x plus negative x. And by the way, you could put a 1 on these if you want. That's, again, a coefficient. You don't have to. So this literally means negative x plus negative x. On a stretch, using the stretch idea, which I just did a few moments ago, this distance from 0 to here, say, is negative x. Okay, and I'm assuming here x itself is like a positive number like 3, so this could be like negative 3. Well, I'm doubling negative x to negative 2x, so that is a stretch times 2. So then the next thing, I have 4x squared, and by the way, that could be negative 2 times x. 4x squared literally means x squared added to itself 4 times. Repeat, again, multiplication is repeated addition. I could put a 1 there if I want. I don't have to. Okay, using the stretch method, if this length here represents x squared, let's say x is 4, that would be 16. This would be a stretch of 2, stretch of 3, stretch of 4. So 4x squared is x squared stretched 4 times. So then we have things like negative 3xy. Well, literally this means negative xy added to itself 3 times. This means negative x times y. Using that stretch idea, if this represents negative xy here, this would be negative 2xy, and then this would be negative 3xy. So this is a stretch times, we could say, 3, or yeah, we could say stretch times 3, and this other one we could say a stretch times 4, or times 4. So now let's take a look at measure, length versus area versus volume. So length we consider is a one-dimensional idea. It's like a piece of string. Okay, so this could represent 1 inch. Area is like how big is the floor of a room, or how big is a desk. So the basic unit of area is going to be the square unit. And say I have a square that is 1 inch by 1 inch. Well, area measures how much is in there. And for right now, we can assume that's a flat surface, although it actually doesn't have to be. So if I have 1 inch by 1 inch, I can take 1 times 1 times inch times inch. That gives me 1 inch squared, or we say 1 square inch. So notice an inch and a square inch are not the same thing. So you can't just add inches and square inches. Then volume is how much space something takes up, and the basic unit of volume is a cube. And here I'm using a cube that is 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. So how much space does this cube take up? Well, this is 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch, meaning multiply. So I have 1 by 1 by 1 by inch by inch by inch. That is 1 cubic inch. Notice a cube, you cannot add a square and a cube together. Those are not like units. So again, the basic area length here, the way I did is x. The area here is x squared, and the volume is x cubed. So now let's actually make some substitutions. Now if I know a value, I can actually calculate what x squared and x cubed are, assuming it's unitless, or assuming that x has no units on it. So find x squared. Well, x squared would be 5 squared, which means 5 times 5, which is 25. X cubed means 5 cubed, which is 5 times 5, which is 25 times 5 is 125. So let's do one more. So if x is 7, find x squared. Well, x is 7, so 7 squared is 7 times 7, which is 49. And x cubed is 7 cubed. Well, that's 7 times 7 times 7. That's 49 times 7. 49 times 7. 9 times 7 is 63. Carry a 6. 4 times 7 is 28. Plus 6 is 34. So that's 343. All right, now let's combine some like terms. So unless I know the value of x, I can't add x squareds and x's and x cubes. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a coefficient of 1 in front of this one and this one. So now let's see how many x cubes we have. Well, we have an x cubed here, and we have an x cubed here. So those are like terms, so I can put them together. That's 5 minus 2 x cubes. So that's 3 x cubes. Now I can add x squareds together. So I have plus 4x squared, and I have minus 1x squared. 4 minus 1 is 3, so this is going to be plus 3x squared. Okay, now x's. So I have negative 1x plus 7x. Well, 7 minus 1 is 6, so I have 6x's. So my simplified expression is this. Until I actually know a value for x, and the units would have to be the same, that is as simple as I can write this. You cannot combine x squares and x cubes and x's. But when I give you a value for x, then you can evaluate it. So when x is 2, what I do is I replace x with 2. So I have 3 times 2 cubed. I'm replacing this with 2, replacing this with 2, replacing this with 2, plus 3 times 2 squared, plus 6 times 2. Well, 2 cubed is 2. It does not mean 6. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So this is 3 times 8, plus 3 times 2 squared means 2 times 2, which is 4. 6 times 2 is 12. So we have 24 plus 12 plus 12. 12 and 12 is 24, and 24 makes a total of 48. So evaluate means plug in the value for x into the what we call the expression here, which was this. Okay, now combine like terms. So in this problem, x, y's are not x's. You can't combine y's with x, y's or x with x, y's. You can only combine x's with x's, y's with y's, and x, y's with x, y's. So I have 5 x's here. I have 7 x's here, So 5 and 7 makes 12x. So now I only have one y right here. So I have a 7y. Now how many xy's do I have? Well, I've got negative 2 xy's right there. I have negative 10 xy's right there. Negative 2 minus 10, those are all negatives, so negative 2 minus 10 is negative 2 plus negative 10. When you add all negatives, you get more negatives, so that's negative 12. So this is going to be minus 12xy. You could also write it like plus negative 12xy. Okay? So now let's evaluate that expression. And actually we can do it with what I've got here. So assume x is 1. Let's actually change this to y is negative 6. Let's make it a little more interesting. So now what I do is I plug in wherever there's an x. Here, I replace this with 1. I replace this with negative 6. I replace this with 1. I replace this with negative 6. So I have 12 times 1. Replace x with 1. Remember, parentheses mean multiplication here. That means 12 times 1. Plus 7 times negative 6. Plus negative 12 times 1 times negative 6. So now evaluate this. Again, multiplication, remember, comes before addition and subtraction. So 12 times 1 is 12. 7 times negative 6 is negative 42. Negative 12 times 1 times negative 6. Well, I have two negatives make a positive when I'm multiplying. So negative 12 times negative 6 makes positive 72. So I'm going to rewrite this as 12 plus negative 42 plus 72. And I'm going to put those positives together. That makes 84 plus negative 42. You have more positives than negatives. My answer is going to be positive. 84 minus 42 is 42, which is my final answer. Okay, so after I'm done speaking here, stop the video, do this problem, and then turn the video back on and see if you agree with what I got. So first here, I want you to simplify negative 4 minus 5x plus 7x squared minus 8x plus 5x cubed minus 7 minus x cubed plus 2x squared. Then evaluate when x equals negative 1. Do not substitute in negative 1 until you've simplified. Okay, so stop the video, do the problem, and then turn the video back on and see if you agree with what I got or what I get. Okay, so we've got negative 4 here. That's a constant. You can't add x plus 1, for example, does not equal 1x, okay? It's just x plus 1. You have another constant here, negative 7. Well, negative 4 minus 7 makes more negatives, so that's negative 11. Okay, we'll put that down. Now we have negative 5x. Okay, so I have negative 5x here. Do I have any other x's? I do, right here. So I am going to highlight those and put those together. So negative 5 minus 8 makes negative 13x. Okay, now I have a 7x squared. And I have another x squared over here, a 2x squared. So I put those together. 7 and 2 makes 9, so that's plus 9x squared. So now I'm left with this, the 5x cubed. So I've got 5x cubed, and I'm going to put a 1 there to make that coefficient 1, and a minus 1x cubed. Well, 5 minus 1 is 4, so I have plus 4x cubed. So I haven't really talked about this in this video, but now I'm going to, it's standard or normal to write something, say, in descending or ascending powers of the variable. Well, in this case, the variable is x. There's only x. So I'm first going to write it in ascending order, descending, which is what we usually do. So this will equal, so I'm writing it in descending powers of x. Now, unless you're specifically told to write it in descending powers of x, which often you will be, this is not incorrect. So in this problem I go 3, 2, 1, and then actually if x to the 0 power actually turns out to be 1. Anything to the 0 power actually is 1, so this technically is x to the 0 power. So I'm going to write this as 4x cubed plus 9x squared minus 13x minus 11. Now you could write this as plus negative 13x or plus negative 11. Then we have ascending powers of x. Not as common to write it this way, but you can. So doing this doesn't change the value of the expression. Remember, addition is what we call commutative. It's not commutative, it's commutative. Commutative is like diseases that you spread. Commutative means, so in addition, that means like 1 plus 2 is 2 plus 1. The order that you add is not important. That's all that says. So this would be negative 11 minus 13x plus 9x squared plus 4x cubed. All right, so now let's evaluate. I'm going to use the descending. Evaluate when x is negative 1. So I have 4. Replace x everywhere with negative 1. So that's negative 1 cubed. I put that in parentheses there. That means 4 times negative 1 cubed. I'm replacing x with negative 1 again. Plus 9 times negative 1 squared minus 13 times negative 1 minus 11. Okay, so negative 1 to the third, when you have a negative to an odd power, it's going to be negative. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So this is 4 times negative 1. That makes negative 4. Negative 1 squared, well, negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. And a negative to an even power will always be positive, so this is plus 9. Negative times negative is positive, that's 13 minus 11. Okay, so now my positives, 9 plus 13 is 22. Negative 4 minus 11 is minus 15. Remember, when you add negatives, you get more negatives. So now I take the difference. It's more positives than negatives, so my final answer is 7 when I evaluate it for x is negative 1. All right, so stop the video and combine like terms in this one. So I have negative 3y squared minus xy plus 7x squared minus 7xy, minus 7x plus 14x plus x minus 10x squared plus 13xy plus 2y squared. Then evaluate when x is negative 2 and y is 3. Okay, stop the video, do the problem, turn it back on, see if we agree with what we got. All right, so this one we've got a y squared here, a 3y squared, so I will circle that, highlight that. Do I have any other y squareds? Yes, I do, right here, plus 2y squared. So let's take care of that. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1, so I have negative 1y squared, or just negative y squared. Now I have a minus xy here. I'm going to put that minus 1xy and put a coefficient of 1 there. So do I have any other xy's? I do, right here. I have 13xy. So 13 minus 1 is 12, so I have plus 12xy. So now I have a 7x squared. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that with a triangle. Then I have a minus 10x squared here, so I'm going to highlight that with a triangle. So 7 minus 10 is negative 3, so this is minus 3x squared. Okay, now I have a 7x, minus 7x. Okay, then I have a 14x right next to it. Then I have a plus, put a 1 there, a plus 1x right next to that. Okay, so that's going to be 14 plus 1 is 15. 15 minus 7 is 8, so it's going to be positive 8x. So again, this is actually correct, but I'm going to write this in descending powers of x first. So I'll just put d for descending. I would start with the highest power of x. So that's going to be negative 3x squared. Okay, then I write the next x term. That's plus 8x. So I go from x to y. Okay, so then I'll put plus 12xy. Then I put the y minus y squared term last, because minus 1y squared is same as minus y squared. Now if I did that in, this is descending powers of x. If I did this in descending powers of y, then I would start with negative 1y squared or negative y squared. Then I would go with the next highest power of y, which is plus 12xy. Then I would go with the 8x. Then I would finish with the highest power of x. And you could do the same thing for, well, notice that descending powers of x are ascending powers of y, and descending powers of y are ascending powers of x. Alright, so let's just go with this one here, negative 3x squared plus 8x plus 12xy minus y squared. So I'm going to evaluate this now at these values. So everywhere there's an x, so let's write this down again here. So I have this plus 8x plus 12xy minus y squared. So x is negative 2, so everywhere there's an x, I replace it with negative 2. Then I have plus 12 times negative 2, replace x with negative 2, and replace y with 3, minus then 3 squared. Okay. So then this is going to be, that's negative 2 times itself. Negative 2 squared is 4, so this is negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. 12 times negative 2 is negative 24. I'm sorry, I forgot the times 3 there then. Okay, so this is negative 24 times 3. Well, that's going to be negative. 24 times 3 is 72. So that's going to be minus 72. That comes from right here. 12 times negative 2 times 3. Minus 3 squared. Remember, 3 squared does not mean 3 times 2 is 6. It's 9. 3 times 3 is 9. So this is minus 9. Okay, so now I have actually all negatives in this problem, so I just add them together. 12 and 16 is 18. Then you have 8. So I have 18, 72, and 9. So 8 and 2 is 10, plus 9 is 19. Carry a 1. 1, 1, and 7 makes 9. So my final answer here is minus 99 when I evaluated it, x equals negative 2 and 3. Remember, you want to simplify before you evaluate. That makes a lot less work for you. Okay? And this concludes the video. If you found this video informative and you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, The Math Dog. You may share the content of this video with others. I hope, again, it was helpful. Thank you and have a good day.